calling the meeting of the Development Committee of March 16, 2021 to order. A physical quorum of the members is physically present. Given that, I'll entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to the coronavirus to participate by video or telephone conference. So motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Member Covert?
Here.
Member
Aye.
Here. Member Ozog?
Aye.
Member Rutledge? Aye. Chair Tornatori?
Aye. Okay, and thank you. Pursuant to the Illinois Attorney General's guidance to public bodies on the Open Meetings Act, during the COVID-19 pandemic dated July 2nd, 2020, county board members may participate without being physically present in compliance with the established provisions, which we have just done. Call to order, please. Call the roll, please.
Member Krajewski? Member Covert?
Here.
Member Garcia? Here. Member Ozog?
Here.
Member Rutledge? Here. Chair Tornatori?
Here. And we have a quorum, and we have a quorum present. Under Chairman's remarks, I have nothing. Moving on to public comment. We have some people sign up for public comment. Let me remind them that public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. It's held at the beginning of the meeting. Any comment on zoning items must be limited to a discussion of testimony or evidence presented in the Zoning Board of Appeals. No new testimony or evidence will be presented or taken by the members. The first person looks like Lyman Tiemann regarding Z20-083, and that would be item C on your agenda.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Lyman Tiemann. I'm the attorney for the applicant in this case, Z20-083, and I would like to address some of the questions, comments, concerns of the Planning and Zoning Commission at the last meeting when they rendered their decision. First of all, I'd like to point out that the property in question is 5.62 acres. It's located on Route 83 south of 91st Street, and it's currently zoned B2. Under the B2 zoning classification, we're allowed to build a gas station and a mini-mart convenience store. Those are exactly the uses that we propose for this site. In addition to that, we are looking for a conditional use permit that would allow us to have a car wash and also a drive-up food service window in conjunction with the convenience store on the property. The major concern of the majority of the members of the Planning Commission seemed to be that there was too much activity going on site for the uses that we proposed on this 5.6 acre site. I would like to call your attention to the fact that back in 2017 for Kingery Square, this property was zoned from a residential use to the B2 use and was also approved for a planned unit development, which would have allowed for up to 70,000 square feet of retail space, 265 parking spots, an entrance, one entrance only on Route 83, and drive-up service windows for 2 of the outlots on site. We were told that our use is too intensive for this site, but we have a total of 7,000 square feet as opposed to 70,000 square feet of retail. We have a drive-through as opposed to 2 drive-throughs, and we have a car wash. We don't believe that the uses that we're seeking for this site are excessive. I would also like to point out that back in 2020, the county board approved a site for a gas station, convenience store, car wash, and drive-up food service, exactly the uses that we're proposing for this 5.6 acre site for a location that was on Route 53 and Butterfield Road on property that was a little over 2 acres. So probably 40% of the size of our site had the same uses that was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and by the county board. We have a total of 7,000 square foot convenience store. We're looking at a car wash, which is roughly about 4,500 square feet. Additional issues that were presented by the Planning and Zoning Commission related to on-site traffic and an acceleration lane going back from our property onto Route 83 at our south entrance, which is a full-service entrance. We have our traffic engineer here today who's going to discuss that in more detail. Also, the Planning and Zoning Commission raised issues concerning drainage and
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman,
may I ask you to wrap up, please, if you could.
Yeah, concerning water and sewer tap-ons, which will be addressed by our engineer. And we feel that there's nothing that we're doing with this site that's out of the ordinary, that it should be, the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission should be overruled, overturned, and a positive recommendation be made to the county board. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott? Rehat, I'm sorry, I can't read it, but it says architect for applicant.
Good morning. My name is Scott Pritchett. I'm with ARSA Architects. I am the architect for this project on Route 83. I'd like just to point out a couple items. One is that with the two buildings, they'll be constructed of complete masonry. We'll match that masonry throughout the entire site for refuse enclosures, for the signage bases, for columns around our gas columns, gasoline canopy. These buildings, along with the entire site, will be required to, and we will conform with the zoning ordinances of the county, the building codes of the county, the fire district's requirements, the engineering district of the county's requirements. The utilities that are servicing this site will meet their requirements as well. The county health department, the state health department, the state environmental protection agency, the state fire marshal, the Army Corps of Engineers, and IDOT, the Department of Transportation for the state, will conform with all the requirements from all these different government agencies that will oversee our development, and will be obviously comply with all of their requirements. That will include the drainage from the car wash, which will be going through a oil separator, which will be periodically cleaned. And that runoff will go through the sanitary system. There'll be no car wash runoff going on to the site. We'll also conform with the interior of the store with the grease separator, the same concept going into the sanitary district. So the sanitary district in this case will be overseeing that for us. Just like you to know that we have done this many times, that we work with all these agencies and we will comply with all of their requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Brian Hertz.
Hi, my name is Brian Hertz. It's H-E-R-T-Z. I'm with MG2A. We're the civil engineer and land surveyor for the project. So we're going to be preparing final engineering plans, the civil engineering to show these connections to the sanitary sewer and the water main that is currently existing in the development to the west. It's the Oaks. And with that development, there was platted easements that these utilities exist within. So it's the DuPage County utilities, and we would have to go through their department. They would review our plans, and then once they've approved the plans and signed off on the IEPA, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency construction permits, those utility extensions would be reviewed and permitted by the Illinois EPA. The sanitary sewer is about 60 feet to the west, into that site in the easement, and the water main's about 120 feet to the west. There was a question raised about the drainage at the zoning board meeting. The stormwater discharges from this property are all going to be directed towards the state right-of-way, Illinois Route 83. All of the site drains that way currently. We have 2 basins basically, so there'll be 2 different discharge points, one at the north end, one at the south end. Our site is about 5 to 7 feet higher, or the townhomes, I should say, are 5 to 7 feet higher than our site. So everything's draining down through our site to the state right of way. And that really sums it up. Scott, the architect, had mentioned the sanitary sewer discharge from the car wash would be, routed through a triple basin system. And then that will be reviewed by the Illinois EPA also. But that is a totally separate sewer system than the stormwater drainage system. So those things, I think, had some confusion at the zoning board meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, is it Michael?
Good morning. Michael Worthman, principal with the firm of Koenig, Lindgren, O'Hara, Abuna, Inc., KLOA, Inc. I'm here to talk circulation on the site. I'm going to turn it so north is up. Makes it a little easier. The site has been designed, a number of elements to provide orderly and efficient circulation. And just want to go through a couple of those quickly. The site has 2 access drives, a right in, right out to the north and a full access to the south. The 2 access drives will help to distribute that traffic throughout the site and the circulation. More importantly, separate right turn lanes will be provided on Illinois 83 into the south and to the north and the south access drive, as well as a separate left turn lane into the south access drive. All of the internal intersections are back from the Illinois 83 right away in order to provide additional stacking for those vehicles that are going out and to minimize any congestion on the site. One of the very unique qualities of this site is that it's separated into thirds, where we separate each of the functions or activities. The car wash is to the north, on the north side of the access drive. The convenience store and the pumps for passenger vehicles are between the south and the north access drive. And the commercial fueling is on the south side along the south access drive. That helps to separate that traffic, minimize any interaction between the different uses. Fourth is the fact that both the stacking for the drive-through restaurant and for the car wash far exceeds the county ordinances requirements and exceeds what you would typically find in these type of uses. Lastly, this is the only section at the north access drive where commercial vehicles will interact with passenger vehicles. We minimize that interaction between commercial and passenger vehicles. Lastly, one of the questions at the zoning committee was the need for a acceleration lane as you come out of the north or south access drive. We have gotten some preliminary comments from IDOT, who controls the Illinois Department of Transportation, who controls Illinois 83. They are not requesting the acceleration lane. They typically do not require acceleration lanes. However, we will follow anything that they require. We have to, it's their road, but we will work with them as well as working with you. So if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. Moving on to approval of the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021.
Second, Colbert.
Seconded by Member Colbert. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The
Aye.
minutes are approved. Moving on to regulatory services, I will entertain a motion to approve DCP 49-21, recommendation for approval of a contract to Harris Govern for annual software maintenance and support services for the period of April 1, 2021 through March 31st, 2022 for building and zoning, transportation, and public works.
So moved Rutledge. Second Garcia.
A motion by member Rutledge, seconded by Vice Chair Garcia. Any questions on this matter? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And the motion carries. Moving on to item B, informational. I will entertain a motion to receive and place on file 23 West 571 Warrenville Road, Lisle. This is a certification review for a certification of compliance for a new group home for those 55 and older located at 23 West 571 Warrenville Road.
So moved. Covert.
Motion by member Colbert,
Second Rutledge.
second by member Rutledge. Any questions, comments on this item for informational purposes? This motion to receive and place on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item C, I will entertain a motion to approve DCO 22-21 ordinance C 2083. Already, this is the zoning board of appeals recommendation to deny a conditional use for an automobile laundry mini mart drive-through service in conjunction with an automobile service station in the B2 General Business District. This was denied by the zoning board of appeals 6-1. As you know, we take our motions in the affirmative, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this ordinance.
So moved Rutledge.
Second. Covert.
Motion by member Rutledge, seconded by member Covert. Any questions, comments? Vice Chair Garcia.
I just have a question regarding any kind of buffering that's going to be done that was planned on this between this project and between the subdivision to the west.
Paul? There you go.
Sorry about that. So in addition to keeping a setback distance, which is required of at least 40 feet, the petitioner is proposing landscaping between a fence and the west property line. Typically, you would put a fence up at the property line. In this case, the petitioner is putting a fence 40 feet from the property line between Route 83 and the buildings. And then on the west side of the fence, there will be substantial landscaping that will include canopy trees and pine trees as a buffer between the property to the west and the residents to the west.
Okay, so the trees will be on the residence side, basically just obscuring the fence then.
That's correct. So the residents will see the landscaping first, and then if in the wintertime, perhaps when the leaves are down, they'll see the fence, and then the fence will be blocking and screening the buildings on the property to the east.
All right, thank you.
Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chairman. In the packet, there were several neighbors' concerns about the fact that there were already those same entities in the general vicinity of the area, a gas station, a restaurant, so on. But there is nothing in our zoning codes that says you can't open a restaurant right next door to a restaurant or anything like that.
That's to be clear. That is true. That's correct. There are gas stations in this vicinity, but they are only gas stations. There are no car washes with gas stations or attached convenience stores or restaurants. In this particular case, this restaurant is going to be a Dunkin' Donuts. So you are able to sit down, but the majority of activity with this restaurant will be drive-through.
Any other questions, comments? Member Colbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a quick comment. I don't see any persuasive argument to not allow this mini mart and gas station, even in the packet. So, you know, I will be voting for it. That's all I wanted to say.
Any further questions, comments? Paul, I did notice there was one letter I saw. I don't know if there were any others, but the one of the neighbors, she refers to an Oaks condo development. I assume that's an association of some kind.
That's the association for the.
Would we have any input or objection from the association?
Not directly from the association, only from residents in the condo association, but not directly from the.
How many people objected? How many of the residents do you remember?
I believe it was 7 residents. We had 2 that showed up in person, and then I believe 7 submitted comments to the record.
Okay, any further questions of Paul? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve this. This was again a denial by the Zoning Board of Appeals. The motion and a second is to approve. Roll call, please.
Member Krajewski,
No.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Garcia,
Aye.
Member Ozog,
No.
Member Rutledge, Chair Tornatori.
Aye, and the motion carries. This will be referred to the county board, I presume, in the next meeting. Thank you, Paul. Moving on to DC 023-21 ordinance Z 2090. This is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a variation to increase the height of a new internally illuminated monument sign and a variation to increase the copy area of the sign from 48 square feet to approximately 234 square feet. Is there a motion to approve?
So move Garcia.
Motion by Vice Chair Garcia. Is there a second?
Second, Rutledge.
Second by Member Rutledge. Any questions, comments on this matter? Member Rutledge.
Sam, just a general question, because I can't remember which item on our agenda I looked, but one of those, it was a comment from Downers Grove, and they used the word percurial. And Google doesn't know what that means. So I'm looking for a definition of that word, or if it was maybe it was handwritten, so maybe it didn't get pulled over, but I don't know what that means, and I'd like to know that.
I'll try and get you a definition of that. I believe the issue was they wanted to make sure that that the light spillage onto the public right-of-way was in compliance with the ordinance and wouldn't increase undue glare onto the public right-of-way. And we've been assured through by the petitioner that they will meet the pixelation requirements in our ordinance, and also there will be no light spillage on the public right-of-way. But I think they were concerned about the lighting, and they were using a word incorrectly. But if there is a definition, I'll find it for you.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Just like to know what I'm looking at.
And I'm taking a stab in the dark. I think my recollection of seeing that word somewhere is it's something out of the ordinary or something like that. But no, Google doesn't know we got a problem. So. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the CHO's recommendation to approve these two variations. Hearing no further questions or comments. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
No, we're okay.
Thank you. Okay, Tony,
Yeah,
jump
we got
in
one.
whenever you want. I always listen to you except now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Moving on to item D, DC 024-21, ordinance Z 2091. Arsanovich, this is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to deny a variation to allow the unfinished side of an existing fence to face outward. Is there a motion to approve this? Someone?
So moved, Rutledge.
The motion by Member Rutledge.
Second, Ozog.
Second by Member Ozak. Paul, can you just tell us very quickly, I know you told me, but why the zoning hearing officer denied this?
The petitioner didn't present a case. He built a fence incorrectly. The good side of the fence is supposed to good side or finished side is supposed to face out towards the neighbors. He built a fence and put it inside. He knew that he needed to put the good side out, and he didn't do it. He didn't present any case other than I put the fence up and I want to keep it up. I will indicate in your packets that the fence is only in the rear and portion of the rear side yard. There were some neighbors who objected to the fence, but once again, the petitioner did not put on a case.
Member Garcia.
Yeah, just a quick question. I've just always looked for clarity on this. Why does the finished side need to go out? Is that for continuity throughout the whole area, or why is that? I've had lots of complaints where I used to work, and people were like, why do I have to do that? And I could never really give them a good answer.
There's two things. Structurally, when you build a fence, there are some cross boards that you put in to the fence to provide structure to it. One of the concerns that we've had people complain about is that people or children on the other side of the fence are using those cross boards to climb onto the fence and then climb over to the property. So if those boards are on the inside of the property, the only ones that would be doing with that would be the people who own the property or the kids, and they can control that a lot easier. The other issue is just sheer looks of it. The finished side or the good side is what the neighbors want to be looking at. And if the property owner wanted to have a good side, they could double side the fence and put the good side on both the outside and on the inside. So those are the two main reasons.
Thank you, Paul.
So Paul, a way to rectify this from the owner would be to, I don't suppose they could dig it up and flip it around because it's probably in with concrete, but just put another good sign on.
Well,
bad-
They could do
bad
two
side is-
things. They could do two things. They could finish the, put another fence up on the inside of the fence. But these fences and this fence in particular is just panels. So they could take the panels off. They wouldn't have to remove the actual post. They could just take the panels off and reverse the panels. Usually panels are about 6 to 10 feet long. They can certainly take each panel off and just reverse it.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve this. Roll call, please.
Member Krajewski? Member Covert?
Nay.
Member Garcia?
No?
Member Ozog?
No.
Member Rutledge?
No.
Chair Tornatori?
No, and the motion to approve is denied or fails. Moving on to DC 025-21, ordinance C2106, Shiro. This is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a variation to allow a 6-foot tall closed fence within the 10-foot corner side yard setback. The motion to approve, please.
Rutledge, second Garcia.
Motion by member Rutledge, seconded by Vice Chair Garcia. Any questions, comments on this matter? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And they're hearing none, the motion carries. Any old business for the committee? Any old business? Any new business for the committee? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion
So moved.
Rutledge, seconded by member Covert. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.